Okay, so we're checking out another Toothpick class micro drone here from SkyStars. This is on one of those bind and flies. It's pre-built and comes with some pretty good parts on here. And obviously the frames are all looking different for all these different models, but this one is kind of interesting with this these braces in the front and the back. So when you have a crash in the front here, it does brace up this other arm here, braces this arm here if the impact's on this corner. So just give it a little bit more durability so that if in frontal or rear impacts here, the arm won't just completely snap unless, of course, it's a really hard crash. And of course, there's not a whole lot to do with that, but that's what these little braces are for, and just kind of give it a different look. Now, all the parts in here are pretty decent. If you look at this is a SkyStars 1103 motor. This is an 8,000 kV motor, and it's got this SkyStars Talon stack in here as well. So yeah, I've done a review video on this one, and this one does come with the plugs, which I'm not a big fan of. I wish they would just direct solder that, but this particular board had the plugs on here, and the motors had the plugs, so that's kind of why they went with that. But if you look back on some older videos on the Scorpion 80, which is the same thing as the Rex 80, that also had all the same SkyStars parts on there. I believe the motors though were maybe a higher kV than this. I think they were 11,000 kV, but they might have been actually mislabeled and were like 9,000 kV. So yeah, these are basically all the same whoop parts from the Rex 80 in this frame here, but with a different camera. Instead of the EOS camera from Caddx, where you got the RunCam Nano 2 on this particular model. So basically we got all the same sort of electronics, 15 amp 400 ESC, F4 flight controller, and video transmitter. I think the video transmitter only up to 100 milliwatts. And this one does come pre-installed with the XM Plus receiver. That's why it's a bind and fly. That also comes with other receiver versions, FlySky and Spectrum, and also a no receiver version. But this is pretty nice. It just comes like this. The receiver antennas are already heat shrunk to the zip ties here, so it was pretty much ready to go. I just added this battery strap here on the bottom. The one that it came with was too big. This one fits a little bit better. And I just bound up the receiver, set my modes and my transmitter I set the modes and the Betaflight to match my transmitter, and then I flew with this battery, 2S Tattoo, because we're using the bigger 65mm props. Totally fine performance on 2S. You could possibly do 3S, but then I think you'll have to mess with the throttle curve, maybe put in a throttle limit, something like that. So, as I said, 2S totally fine. You'll see that in the flight footage. Performance is more than adequate. But yeah, let's see how much this thing weighs. I actually haven't weighed this yet, so I'm kind of curious myself. Might be on the heavy side. I'm not sure with all these extra parts, carbon parts and 3D printed parts. So we're coming in at 49.7 grams. Not too bad, not too bad. And we add in our battery here. And total weight with the battery, we're coming in about 78.7 grams. So yeah, it's a little bit on the heavier side, again, compared to a lot of other, I guess, custom-built toothpicks that are basically trying to cut as much weight out as possible. So, if you're worried about the extra weight, then yeah, something to be a little concerned about. Maybe you can get rid of some of these parts here, like the 3D printed part here. Of course, if you get rid of the braces, you're trading weight for durability. So it's always the trade-off you're going to make. You could also obviously reduce the weight, but then you also reduce the durability as well. Okay, so in terms of the performance, totally fine on 2S. You might be able to do 3S, but I didn't test that. The tune on here I think is meant for 2S because I think it flew best on this battery here. It is an older version of Betaflight, again, like 356 I believe, something like that was on here. And they did do a PID tune, so you'll see that it didn't do any weird oscillations or anything like that. And it has a custom tune from the factory. So I would recommend just going 2S and just not even bothering touching the PIDs or anything like that, or upgrading Betaflight. So I know that a lot of people out there, they see it's an older version of Betaflight, they go and make the mistake of flashing to Betaflight 4, which is very tricky to tune, and they end up just totally messing up their drone, which is kind of defeating the purpose of buying these, is so that you don't have a lot of trouble getting it set up. So I would recommend just leaving it whatever came from the factory and just fly it with this 2S battery. You'll be totally fine with that, and I really don't recommend going to Betaflight 4 because it is a little bit trickier to tune on this one if you don't know what you're doing. You can actually burn something out, or just it might fly away to the moon or whatever, things like that. So beware if you get this. Just stick with what comes from the factory. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. I will have a roundup video on all of these bind and fly toothpicks that I've been reviewing lately. That should be coming out fairly soon. I do have a few more that are coming that I need to review, and then I'll do a final roundup, or at least a first set of roundups. I'm sure there's probably going to be more coming. But anyway, here's some flight footage for you, and yeah, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.